So there's been a lot of new music released in the last couple months that have definitely sparked online discussion, and I thought it would be time I come on here and throw in my own 2 cents. For a lot of these releases, I didn't really want to make entire dedicated videos about them, neither did I want to make shorts because I am scared of making short form content. So the perfect medium is to talk about a bunch of them at once in one long video. I did do this a while ago with some other albums, and we're doing the same thing now. And I won't be covering just albums, I'll also do individual songs, and maybe even album announcements and things like that, just giving you my thoughts on the recent music landscape, at least what I've been paying attention to. And I do want to do this every now and then. I know I've said that about series before, and then I only did like one video and dropped it, but I swear I have more ideas. Plus, this one actually makes a lot of sense as a series because new music obviously is going to keep coming out. And like I said, this is technically my second time doing this, so boom, it's already a series. And if new music comes out that you want to see me talk about, this will probably be the best way for me to do it, unless I have enough to say to make a whole dedicated video on it. With that said, I'm calling this Reviewing Recent Releases, or in short, RRR. I quote this meme literally like every week, and no one ever gets it. I know some of these aren't that recent anymore, but don't come at me. I know, I'm aware. I just wanted to talk about them anyways. As with my other album reviews, I'll give you some overall thoughts, a synopsis on the album, a track ranking, and a final score. And for individual songs, I'll just talk about what I think. In this video, we will be covering releases by the following artists: Lorde, Marina, PinkPantheress, KPop Demon Hunters, Twice, Addison Rae, Blackpink, and JoJo Siwa. We have a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. Carry me, First up, we have Virgin by Lorde, an album I was highly anticipating. The singles leading up to this, to me, were all phenomenal. What Was That was a fun reintroduction to the emotional, minimalist, synthy Lorde from Pure Heroine days, with hints of melodrama. Man of the Year built on that even further with more drama and emotion, but also a lot of new, interesting themes of self-expression and gender identity and daily routine, things that would be critical to the whole album. And Hammer was a beautiful moment of release, very upbeat, very reminiscent of Greenlight off Melodrama. It seemed overall that Lorde was departing from the Solace and Island Girl feelings of Solar Power and jumping back into the emotional and even harsh sounds of Melodrama and Pure Heroine. And I think that's the best way to describe Virgin. Kind of right in between those two with a really unique new perspective. Now don't get me wrong, I love Solar Power and I do think it's overhated, but this album is nothing like Solar Power, and I think it captures everything that made those early records so amazing. Sonically, like I said, this record feels just in between the minimalism of Pure Heroine and the maximalism of Melodrama. Production was largely done by Lorde herself and Jimmy Stack, a more indie electronic artist, versus earlier work, which was largely done by Jack Antonoff. It has a very consistent production, using pretty much the same instruments throughout the entire project. Lorde herself said this was an intentional move.
The palette of the album is actually quite simple. We used a lot of the same stuff over and over, and I thought of all the sounds we chose, which we chose so carefully as my voices, you know. These machines are singing and crying and talking, you know.
The album is so immersive in that way. All the songs are dedicated to that harsh, synthy, thumping sound. It's honestly kind of addicting. It's much more bodily and even grotesque in a way than her usual work, not just lyrically, but in the sound as well. Again, that harsh sound pumping through the entire record, and it blends so seamlessly with Lorde's voice to the point where the music really just becomes an extension of her and who she is. Lyrically, the album hones in on themes I mentioned earlier: self-expression, gender and womanhood, power dynamics. This is definitely the most vulnerable I think Lorde has gotten on a record. Because of that, there's a lot of really powerful moments, like Man of the Year, as I mentioned earlier, Broken Glass about Lorde's relationship with her weight, or the gut-wrenching release on David. There's also some strange moments, admittedly. There's a track where Lorde discusses loneliness, crying out to her mother, wishing her relationships could work out. only to have the chorus sample a song about good pussy. Then there's a song, fully Imogen Heap a cappella vocoder style, about unprotected sex and pregnancy. But I don't know, to me, it works. It all flows together well. It feels cohesive. It balances the broader emotional highs and lows of life with just the mundane everyday things like riding a bike around town, swishing mouthwash, going to the gym. It makes for an album that feels so human. Hence the title Virgin, owing to Lorde trying to return to an untouched, purer version of herself. If you're curious to hear more specific thoughts on each song, I'm actually going to be doing a Lorde discography ranking very soon, so stay tuned for that. I have so much more I could say about this album. Usually when I do the reviews, I give a tracklist ranking, but to save some surprise for the discography ranking, I will leave it out this time. But I'll still give this a score, that being a 9 out of 10. A truly phenomenal album that is definitely one of my favorites of the year.
Welcome to my world, princess of power. Big love, big aura.
Next up, we have Marina's album Princess of Power. I don't know too much about Marina and haven't kept up with her as much as other artists. I of course know her popular stuff. She's generally known for this electric, infectious pop sound. But I got into this album because of Cantissimo, actually. I was getting it recommended to me on Spotify Shuffle, funnily enough, after listening to Virgin. And I remember thinking, guys, she's really good.
She's really good.
So I decided to check out the whole album, and I was not disappointed at all. This album slaps. It's just fun dance pop perfection with an underlying tone of failed relationships and an overall feeling of glamour and royalty. It's a combination I find really interesting in a lot of albums, giving you sad moments that make you think, but still putting a glamorized filter over the whole thing. There's literally a song called Everybody Knows I'm Sad, about how lonely Marina feels, but the titular lyric is set to this fun synthy chorus, like you can't help but have a good time. Aside from the royal motif I mentioned with the imagery of being a princess, I also love that there's this digital motif throughout the whole album, not in just the production but in the lyrics as well, with songs like Metallic Stallion and Digital Fantasy. This album is largely an exploration of what love means, from asserting at the start that love is my design, love don't make you weak, it's the superpower in me, to singing about various attempts to chase love down, to make it work even when it's not. Finally ending on a song conquering the final boss who represents liars and cheats and those who ruin love. As she said herself leading up to this album, the Princess of Power beats the final boss at own game and always comes out on top. And again, that digital imagery comes back with Final Boss having this video game sound and theme to it. I can't really place this project in her whole discography because again, I just don't know Marina that well. So if there's any other insights into the music, into her evolution, I would absolutely love to hear them. But that's just what I make of it thematically. As for the songs themselves, honestly, I can't really say I find any song bad here. I think the only song I might skip is Adult Girl just cause, I don't know, it's not as fun as the others, but obviously that's the point. It's the most heartfelt, sentimental track here. On that note, here is my ranking of the whole project. Cantissimo is definitely still the highlight. I mean, it is the most popular from the album for a reason. Overall, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I really love it, and I see myself coming back to it very often.
Come talk to me, come on. Talk later, that's where I'm going tonight.
My experience with this PinkPantheress record is a lot like with Marina. I don't really know much about PinkPantheress beyond her biggest hits and just her presence in pop culture. You know, she's a lot newer and so she's more prevalent in social media, TikTok, that kind of stuff. I even dropped her in the thumbnail of my Bridges video because, I don't know, she's relevant enough to garner clicks. Kidding. Okay, I'm not just about the clickbait, I swear. She is amazing, and I thought her music was fairly emblematic of this trend in pop music of songs getting shorter. She's known for her catchy melodies, her electric yet soothing voice, and for her kind of iconic personality.
So the song is about being in a secret relationship and the risk rush.
Oh, that's interesting. It's actually not.
What is it about to you?
So to me, it's about buying.
And not that recently, but for the sake of this video recently, she released Fancy That, which isn't actually a studio album, but it's a mixtape, which to my understanding means it's a little more freeform and for the fun of it. Nonetheless, this has been taking off. I mean, you've definitely heard
My name is Pink and I'm really glad to meet you.
by now. But actually, the song that got me into this album was Tonight. And not even through the song, but the music video. I saw a clip of this royal castle imagery and the gowns and the outfits, and I was like, I have to check this out, only to end up being hooked by the song. This is the power of a good music video, y'all. Music videos are not dead. Wow, if I had a nickel for every time a dance pop song starting with a violin-like intro, transitioning into a beat drop, and set to a music video involving corset gowns and trashing mansions got me into that song's respective album, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Then I listened to the rest of the record, and yeah, it's pretty good. I don't have as much to say about it, it's pretty short, and I think the sound is overall pretty cohesive and straightforward. There aren't any major curveballs on this record, except I think Nice to Know You, which has this more theatrical cinematic vibe to it, which I absolutely adore. Illegal is of course a powerful intro that really sets the tone well for the album. I thought Noises was a fun homage to her earlier days and her love for rap and hip-hop. And yeah, like I said, a lot of the songs just feel very fitting to what I was expecting. I also liked how some songs really transition seamlessly from one to the next. It gave a Beyoncé Renaissance vibe where you can just dance through the whole album without even realizing. I'm giving this a 7.5 out of 10. It didn't, exceed my expectations dramatically, but it's certainly a lot of fun, and it definitely makes me curious to see more of what PinkPantheress has to offer in the future. Here is my full track ranking. Like I said, Tonight is just a jam, there's no denying it, and let's move right along.
My name's Pink and I'm really glad to meet you.
We now switch gears to an album that everyone seems to be talking about, that being the soundtrack for KPop Demon Hunters, Sony Animation's recent release following Huntrix, a K-pop group by day and Demon Hunter squad by night, hunting down the Saja boys. Now, as a huge disclaimer, I have not seen the movie yet. I know, I am waiting to watch it with my sister, okay? I have a valid reason. So I swear to God, if any of you guys spoil it in the comments, I'm gonna actually But I still felt like I had to include it in the ranking, not only because it's everywhere on the internet, not only because I've heard these songs a million times whether I've wanted to or not, but because it's charting on the Billboard Hot 200, in the top 10. If it weren't for this country's weird obsession with Morgan Wallen, this would have gone number 1. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, is the soundtrack actually that good and deserving of being so popular? Yes, very much so. This soundtrack is phenomenal. Up there with Hercules and Encanto as some of my favorite animated movie soundtracks of all time. The rap and how it's done, the key change and bubblegum pop energy of Soda Pop, the soaring vocals on Golden, the eerie power of Takedown and Your Idol, into the softer, more vulnerable nature of Free, and this is what it sounds like. Even without having watched the movie, these songs are just phenomenal as they are, and I'm sure with the context of the movie they're going to be even more incredible. Every song feels fully realized as well. It doesn't feel like songs are ending too early, as is, a common trend in K-pop. We'll talk more about that soon. But I feel like every song does what it needs to do. It leaves a lasting impact. This is what a soundtrack should do. This is what a good soundtrack looks like. I also really like this recurring theme I'm getting from the music, that Huntrix and the Saja boys are kind of like two sides of the same coin. Their individual songs are very similar, as our music will make you fall to your knees and worship us and we'll take you down. And then they come together on Free. Again, I don't know. I haven't watched the movie. Don't spoil it. I'm just assuming based on the music, and I don't know, I feel like I kind of got a lot of the plot from the music, but either way, I just think it's cool how that's a subtle element of the soundtrack. I also like how these songs touch on actual real-world obsession people have with K-pop groups and how that can be unhealthy and soul-sucking, literally. Some of y'all need to listen more than others.
Wait, is this fucking play about us?
Anyways, yeah, banger soundtrack. I'm only really considering the songs that are originals made for the movie, not the existing songs that were pulled in as just part of the movie. So focusing in on just those 9 songs, I have absolutely no problem giving this a 10 out of 10. You cannot ask for much more than this. It's pretty difficult to rank, but here's my attempt. Please don't roast me, because literally any of these songs could be number 1. Also, Twice is on this soundtrack. Twice, might I add. And speaking of Twice, I've been a fan of Twice for quite some time now, since 2019, and they just came back with a full-length album, which is not as often for K-pop groups, so I was very, very excited to check out what they had. This is their 4th full-length studio album, with their last one having been Formula of Love back in 2021. In fact, this album is kind of like their 10-year anniversary. The original teasers they put out looked really cool with this almost hyperpop kind of aesthetic to it, so I was really excited for what they were coming up with. And overall, the album is pretty good. Nothing crazy that really exceeded my expectations, but nothing bad by any means that felt subpar. It feels like a pretty standard Twice album, and a natural continuation of the brighter sound they established on Strategy that they're now really rolling with. They've been in the game for 10 years, and yet their sound is still consistently evolving and changing, which is not something you can say for a lot of groups. This Is 4 is a great title track with some really beautiful vocal layering and a killer outro that gets you dancing, and all the other songs are pretty solid. solid. The subunit songs remind me a lot of the ones from Formula of Love, but they go even further here with the groupings, and ultimately ending on a nice softer moment with Seesaw and Heartbreak Avenue. Now, there was one song that did blow me away, and probably still is my favorite on the album, that being the intro, titled 4. This is one of the few moments here that truly gagged me beyond belief, and I kinda wish it was a full-length song, but I also love how it functions as an intro and transitions into the title track, so I'm not gonna complain. This song delivers. The production is so unique and, again, like hyperpop-esque, but really interesting. The vocals and just kind of like chanty nature of it all, like, ooh, it's so good. Now, I do have a couple complaints I'd like to voice. First, a lot of these songs are just too short. A lot of K-pop is steering towards shorter songs. That is something a lot of you guys brought up, again, under my Bridges video, but Twice has been in the game for a long time. You know, they don't really need to be doing this for commercial or marketing reasons. Like, their music is gonna make money regardless. So I'm a little confused by why so many of these songs just end after the second chorus. I think they're a lot of fun, I think they have a lot of potential, but sometimes it feels like as soon as you get invested in a song, we already have moved on to the next one. Second, the only song on the album I probably don't like is Talk, which I feel bad saying because it's not really a bad song. It just doesn't make sense as a Nayeon and Jihyo subunit song. This is something the entirety of Twice could easily do. Hell, it's something I see Dahyun and Chaeyoung fitting more than the main vocalists of the group. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's Nayeon and Jihyo. Like, there's so much more they could have done. Ultimately, I do think I prefer their other full-length albums a little more, but I have no problem with this one, and I definitely find it a worthy addition to Twice's discography. I'm gonna give this a solid 7 out of 10. And if you're a fan of Twice's usual sound, or just looking for a really bright-sounding pop album, I would definitely check this out. And here is my song ranking. Also, I cannot believe that they did not include these solo songs in the album that they were teasing on Instagram. Like, bruh, JYP, this is diabolical behavior. These songs sound amazing, like truly amazing. I think I would have given an album of these songs a 10 out of 10, but it doesn't exist. So what can I do?
It makes me want it more. Fame is a gun in a pointed blade.
Yes, I know this one isn't that recent either. Yes, I know people have already moved on. I don't care. I still want to talk about it because this album is really, really good. Like, shockingly good. And I don't mean that it was shockingly good in the sense that it's Addison Rae. Okay, I think after Diet Pepsi and Aquamarine and all the singles, like, she established herself as being serious about this, and I knew she was going to deliver something good. I was more shocked by just how much I ended up enjoying the album, personally. I think the singles established a variety of things Addison wanted to try, but nothing felt too far off her brand for it to feel like she was trying to be something she's not. And then you bring in all the other B-sides and it all comes together really beautifully. The songs have the same high-pitched vocals, the dancey production, the mesmerizing, dreamy nature of it all. One thing that is really well done about this album is how cohesive it is. My fear going into the album was that Addison was just going to embrace a bad girl persona or a sad girl persona without much in between. But instead, I think the album doesn't do that. It feels new, it feels like it balances both sides and tells a story that Addison genuinely wants to tell. It's danceable but sad, blunt but melodramatic. It hits the highs and lows of party life in New York. Like, it just works. I also want to mention there feels like a very heavy Lana influence throughout this album, not just from explicit mentions of her music or I don't need your drugs, I'd rather get high fashion. Like, come on, that's just straight out of Ultraviolence. But even beyond that, the dreamy Americana sound just feels very Lana, and meshed with the dance pop, it makes for a listening experience that is really powerful. There's of course other inspirations as well. In the Rain feels straight out of Dedicated by Carly Rae Jepsen, there's some Madonna and Arca and Charli XCX, but all those influences come together to form something, like I said, that feels authentically Addison Rae. The concern when TikTokers release music, I think, is that people don't want them to be inauthentic, to just try to emulate something for the money or for the attention. But it would be unfair to say that about this project. You know, if she was just trying a bunch of different things without any direction, it would feel inauthentic, but that couldn't be more opposite of the truth. This project is cohesive, it has a story, like, this feels authentic, truly. Not to mention the lyricism ranges from good to phenomenal, which is another thing that really shocked me. There is a lot of profound stuff about growing up, her parents, living life in the spotlight, self-discovery, and more. The only aggressively artificial song is probably Money Is Everything, but I think that's kind of the point of that one. Overall, I am really happy to see Addison receiving praise for this. Like, the album truly does deserve that recognition. Whether you like Addison Rae or not, whether you care to see her become famous as a musician, or you think she should just stick to TikTok, this album is undeniably very well put together. 9 out of 10. Here's my track ranking. Don't come at me, I know I'm very late to the game, but I do see myself coming back to this very, very often. And now we're gonna move on to some individual songs that I want to talk about. Let's get right to the point. I love this song. So energetic and fun, and I don't give a shit what any of you have to say. Okay, sorry, that was aggressive. Again, dance pop is just kind of in right now. It's kind of doing it for me, and I think this song is a really good testament of that. The thumping bass in the chorus is so addicting. The verses are insanely catchy. I think the vocals here are just really well polished. Like, everything about this song just works in my opinion. My only complaint, again, similar to Twice, is that the song ends a bit too quickly. I wish they did more, especially with that Blackpink in your area at the end. I'm like, okay, they're back, let's hear some more. And then the song just kind of ends there. But you know, the rest is really good, so I'm not going to complain too much. I saw a lot of fans complaining that this song sounded too different from their usual stuff and not really Blackpink. I'm sorry, weren't y'all the ones complaining that Blackpink was getting too complacent with their usual formula and that they needed to switch things up? I know I was complaining about that, which is why I really appreciated the song, and it felt like a breath of fresh air, and honestly, a really fitting route for them, considering all the new sounds they've individually explored. You can't expect them to do all those solo projects that were incredibly successful, and then come back and just be the exact same Blackpink that they were before. Of course, everyone is allowed to have their own opinions. You know, if you think this is just random EDM and you don't like it, then sure, that's totally fine. But I don't see the argument that this is generic or aimless. The concept of the music video is that everyone is obsessed with Blackpink and can't get enough, hence why Blackpink is inside people's heads and ears, and why people go literal batshit crazy when Blackpink starts playing. Which is true. What did y'all not understand about that? I swear to God, Blackpink's worst enemy is their own fandom. Though I really do hope the AI allegations aren't true because yikes, that's embarrassing. Now, are there issues with how the song was delivered? The fact that they were teasing what seemed to be much more than just one song, only to give us one song? Yeah, those are all somewhat disappointing. But again, when it just comes to the song itself, I'm in love, and I don't really understand the hate towards it. Though I've now been told numerous times under my Cat's Eye video that my taste may just be opposite to everyone else's when it comes to K-pop, and like, that's fine. You are totally allowed to disagree with me, but I don't want to see anything like dumb blinks always praising Blackpink for doing the bare minimum, or any bullshit like that. I am allowed to like this song beyond my love for the girls. Trust me, Blackpink has had their fair share of mistakes and flops, and I am totally okay with acknowledging that, especially their constant baiting of fans. But in my honest opinion, this is not one of them. I like the song, and I'm gonna continue listening to the song, okay? 8 out of 10. Fun fact, did you know that Taylor Swift actually covered this song during her Speak Now World Tour? Listening to this live version on Spotify is kind of hilarious because there's this one fan who is like screaming demonically the entire time, and they come so close to ruining the whole thing. But Taylor does sound really beautiful, so I think it makes up for that. Anyways, I'm mentioning that so I can talk about a good cover of this song instead of this very not good cover. Oh boy. Remember a while ago when I made a video talking about Guilty Pleasure, JoJo Siwa's post-Nickelodeon debut EP? While it was overall pretty silly and bland, there were moments I liked, and I felt like JoJo really had the potential to do something genuine as a musician if she took her art seriously, trained her voice, and stopped doing things just for the sake of going viral. Why did I even bother? JoJo could not have gone further in the opposite direction, at least when it comes to her newest release, a cover of the 1989 song, Betty Davis Eyes. Now the production is actually pretty good on this one. It's true to the synth punk nature of the original, but it's a little more pop oriented. The original song is of course great. Like, all the elements were there for this to work. And then you actually add JoJo into the equation, and the whole thing falls apart. JoJo is just trying way too hard to sound like Kim Carnes here, and it doesn't work at all. The reason Kim Carnes' raspy voice works is because that is actually her voice. It feels authentic and natural for her, without a ton of autotune or post-production, and it's her way of bringing out the style of the song. Now here's JoJo trying to emulate that, but they're still slapping a ton of post-production and autotune onto her voice to the point where it feels unnatural and genuinely hard to listen to. You can't mix rasp and autotune. It just sounds bad. Especially because JoJo's rasp feels less like an artistic choice and more like a necessity.
Oh my god, she's raspy today.
Bruh. At least Karma was listenable and like funny bad. This is just bad. I haven't even touched on the whole trad wife aesthetic here, which is a choice, certainly. You probably didn't know, but JoJo actually did release another song earlier this year called Bulletproof, which felt like a very generic pop song interpolating the Frere Jacques melody. And yeah, I don't think people liked that one very much either, but to be honest, it wasn't that bad. It was a pretty decent song that was just very, very unoriginal. But that was the issue right there. It wasn't memorable. It wasn't forcibly bad. It wasn't shocking. It was just boring. And so it barely made a splash. And now JoJo is back to just embarrassing herself, because that makes the most money. Bette Davis Eyes is significantly worse than Bulletproof, but it already has more streams, and I've been force-fed this song way more than I ever was the other. JoJo's brand is just rage baiting, and at this point, it's futile to think it's gonna change. 3 out of 10, I guess? I don't know. Let's just be done. Also, as a side note, I did listen to Swag by Justin Bieber, and I was going to include that as its own section, but I realized I just have, like, nothing to talk about. It's a nice passive listening album. It's a cool R&B sound, but yeah, that was about it. Also, Renee Rapp has some new recent music, but I'm probably going to wait to talk about that in its own dedicated video once the full album comes out, because y'all, the singles are really good. They're really good. Anyways, that's all. Let me know down below what you thought of all these releases and anything else you might want me to talk about. Just keep in mind, I might not have as much to say about every music project that comes out. Naturally, I have more to say about some than others, you know? Thank you for joining me on this chapter of RRR. And whenever enough new music comes out, I'll group them all together and do another video just like this. Leave a like if you enjoyed, it means a lot, and subscribe if you like hearing me talk about music. We have more fun stuff coming up, I swear. And I'll see you in the Lorde discography ranking. You better be there, right? Okay, bye.